Salutations, everybody. My name is Andy Jurik here at Dream Guitars in beautiful Weaverville, North Carolina, playing a really gorgeous nylon string hybrid guitar. Today, I want to talk a little bit about arranging for solo guitar, specifically fingerstyle arranging for solo guitar. It's something I really love to do. I put out an album of arrangements for classical guitar, something that really intrigues me about the instrument, everything we can do with it. And I love the idea of taking a piece of music from whatever original resource and just translating it for the guitar or stealing it and replacing it on the guitar. Today, I'd like to talk about some basic arranging methods you can use with a simple unadored song. And I like to focus on the song Amazing Grace. The chords are pretty straightforward, the melody is beautiful, but relatively uncomplicated. There's something really lovely in its simplicity. And I like to look at a couple different ways where you can arrange Amazing Grace and make it work really well on fingerstyle guitar. I'm going to be working off of an accompanying PDF that is free. You can check it out through the Dream Guitars website, or I believe there will be a link in the description of the video where you can check out the PDF with all the music I'm going to go over today. So with Amazing Grace, the first thing I'd like to do is just think about the melody and the chords, literally just the bare bones structure of the song. And that's the first thing I like to do if I'm arranging something, just work out what is the melody and what are the chords and what are, specifically, what's an interesting way to accompany with those chords. So the first thing I want to do is just play the melody, just the melody solely by itself. Groovy. With the chords, as you can see on the accompanying PDF, they're pretty straightforward. Just C, G, F, one little bit of A minor. For a really basic standard accompaniment, I'm going to rely on just a set right-hand pattern. For that, I'm thinking my thumb, or P, is just going to handle the bass strings, just the E, A, and D strings. My index finger, or I, is going to play everything on the third string. My middle finger, or M, will play on the second string, and my ring finger, A, is going to play just on the first string. So effectively, every string is assigned one given finger for simplicity's sake. For this accompaniment, I'm just going to do a really simple sort of unraveling of the chord, a simple rolling of the chord. I'm going to play thumb on the lowest bass note of the chord, index, middle, ring, middle, and index again. So for the C chord, I could just do a simple, very simple, very straightforward, very practical for playing fingerstyle guitar. But to spice it up a little bit, I'm going to add an alternating bass note. So if I play a chord for more than one measure, I'm going to exchange for the next highest bass note. So example, for the C chord, first time around, I'll just play that fifth string C as the bass. And then for the next measure of that same C chord, I'm just going to move my thumb over to the next highest string, so the fourth string. So that E will be the next bass note. So a simple fingerstyle accompaniment for the chords for Amazing Grace in the key of C major would sound something like this. Again, simple, straightforward, but undeniably lovely. So once I'm really comfortable with the melody and the chords in and of themselves, then I'll start to put them together in some way. And the first thing I want to do is actually just simply put a bass note on the downbeat of every measure. I want to follow that same alternating bass note idea. So if I'm repeating a chord for more than one measure, I'm going to move where that bass note is, simply just to the next highest bass string. So the third example on the accompanying source material gives this idea of a bass note plus the melody, the bass note again, just on the downbeat of every measure. Again, simple, straightforward, but pretty lovely nonetheless. Because why not? So that works really well. It's a pretty spare, sort of bare bone structure. Of course, the next element is, what if we add more of the harmony? Basically, what if instead of just playing a bass note on the downbeat, we add the entire chord? For this example, I'm just going to add the chords that come underneath that melody note. So for example, for the first measure, I have my bass note, I have my melody note, and I'm just going to add the two notes in between of that C chord. Likewise, for the next measure, my bass note, I'm going to keep as that C, just for simplicity's sake, for the time being. My melody note is that E on the first string, and so I'm just going to add the two notes below that melody note, just to kind of fill out the texture a little bit. So with this full chordal accompaniment, Amazing Grace would now sound like this. So that sounds great, filling out the texture quite a bit, but still there's a lot of space, other than the melody happening and the rest of each measure. It's just one big thing happening right on the downbeat. The next step is to create a bit of forward motion with the arrangement. And so I'm actually going to have this moving bass line. This bass line that basically I'll just work with the notes of a given chord and just create this nice motion just by just arpeggiating or playing through the notes of the chord to kind of just fill out what's happening throughout the rest of the measure. Now, this isn't going to be exact. There'll be some moments where I'll have to maybe repeat a note because, say, the next note I want to play is on the third string, but maybe the melody is right there. So I'll maybe just repeat what I play on the fifth string. So little accommodations here and there, but still, generally, this arrangement would sound something like this. I should say this is the fifth example on the supplementary material. A little bit busier, a little bit more emotion, but still just a really lovely, straightforward solo guitar arrangement of Amazing Grace. To create even more motion, to fill out the texture a little bit more, I'll have this idea of a really active accompaniment line. Sometimes this is called the Alberti Bass. This idea of this really active bass line kind of jumping back and forth between strings. I can apply that to what I'm doing with Amazing Grace here in the key of C major on the guitar. But again, occasionally there will be some modifications I'll need to make. Maybe repeat a note I don't intend to repeat, just because of the practicalities of the instrument, of what I can do and sort of ways I have to navigate around the strings. Nonetheless, with these slight accommodations, we can totally make it work and make a really lovely arrangement. So for the sixth example of Amazing Grace, we have this active accompaniment, also known as the Alberti Bass. So more motion, really filling out the space of the arrangement, making something really special. Again, just with this, this simple but really lovely melody and these very straightforward chords. So those are all sort of rhythmic ways we can fill out the texture. We can create really interesting arrangements with simple folk songs. There's one other idea I want to experiment with, and it's a reharmonization. The reharmonization, I'm just reharmonizing. I'm changing the chords from the original. And this is where things can get really, really interesting. You see this often in jazz. You'll see musicians reharmonize jazz standards, sometimes just to create really interesting new turns, sometimes to go off at really, really interesting out there directions. And I wanted to end with this seventh arrangement of Amazing Grace, just to show one possibility of how we can change the chords, maybe get into a little bit of harmonic trouble, but just how interesting it can be, how rich and colorful we can make arranging on the solo guitar. So this seventh example is my attempt at a reharmonization of Amazing Grace. Hopefully that wasn't too blasphemous for Amazing Grace. Anyway, so that's just a quick video on different ways we can arrange for solo guitar. The guitar is unabashedly the coolest instrument mankind has because it can do so many things. It has so many colors and textures it can offer. And the thing that really intrigues me the most is the possibilities for arranging. I once had a great teacher who had this idea that arranging is just asking the question, what can it be? There's no single answer. There's no single correct answer. There's so many possibilities. And with this video, I just wanted to explore some of these possibilities. Thank you for watching. Have an excellent day, all. Cheers.